habitación, no miré mal, pero salí corriendo de ahí porque ya no puedo, ya no sé qué hacer.
That's TikTok creator Giselle.do in tears at 4 in the morning after running out of her own apartment because something was on the other side of her bathroom door.
No estoy loca. Tengo que entrar a trabajar al rato y no he dormido nada. Estoy nerviosa,
She lives in Dallas, Texas. Over a series of scary videos that have racked up millions of views, she's been documenting what she calls a haunting in her apartment, and the cameras have backed her up almost every time. In this first clip, her home security camera catches something odd. In another, she switches the hallway light off and walks away. It flicks back on multiple times. Then on a different day, the camera catches this. In another, things have gotten so bad she's sitting in her living room reading a psalm out loud, and the lock on her front door starts rattling. Then comes the night she fled the apartment. She wakes up around 4 in the morning to a sound coming from the bathroom. There's clearly something on the other side of the door. That's when she grabs her keys and runs. The crying audio we opened with is from later in the same clip.
4 de la mañana. Pero sé que había algo ahí, sé que miré algo y no estoy loca. No estoy loca. Tengo que entrar a trabajar al rato y...
A few days later, she messages a contact with access to police records and asks them to check the history of the building. 3 deaths in her apartment building since 2022 and 3 shootings on the property since 2024. A device that falls on its own, a light that won't stay off, a front door that rattles while she's reading scripture, something moving in the dark on the other side of her bathroom door at 4 in the morning. So is this Dallas apartment really haunted? Or has the OP just moved into a building with a history that's starting to catch up with her?
There's no one in here!
A grown man is shouting at something inside an empty house in Red Lodge, Montana. His name is Eric O'Day, and he says the Airbnb he's renting is haunted.
There's no one here! Jesus off! God damn it, dude! You, man! You, dude!
It started small, banging, tapping, knocks in the walls, the kind of noises you can talk yourself out of in an unfamiliar place.
There's sudden bangs, and they're not like subtle, they're...
Eric bought earplugs, told himself it was an old building settling, and got on with his trip.
So I got myself earplugs. Those have helped quite a bit, actually. Banging still all throughout the night and whatnot, just sporadic, but been having a lot of crazy dreams, too. I don't know what that's all about. I guess it's just because I'm in a new place or whatnot, but
Then it stopped being something he could explain away.
When I left, that door was closed 100%, so.
The cupboard doors are open.
Okay. Well, those were closed when I left too.
He went into the bathroom to take a look.
Off.
And felt the door push into his back.
Off, dude.
After enough of this, Eric did what anyone documenting a haunting eventually does. He set up a camera, sat down and waited. He'd been waiting over half an hour when he heard something move.
I don't know. Whatever, man. I'm gonna go eat. Nope. Nope.
By this point, Eric had started asking around town, and the locals weren't surprised. The way he tells it, this kind of thing is considered normal in Red Lodge, and the reason goes deep underground.
The town has a whole bunch of history. Miners died here, miners lived here, they built a bunch of tunnels underneath the town. You can look it all up at Red Lodge. And every time I talk to people, they tell me that this kind of behavior is sort of normal around here.
Red Lodge is a coal town built on mining, and the tunnels that made it are still down there, threaded under the streets and by some accounts connecting the old buildings to one another.
The city is completely on top of mines, and so a lot of those buildings are all connected to each other, and people say that there's a lot of mines have been closed up, but there's a lot of openings still there.
The mining came at a cost. Just outside town, on February 27, 1943, a methane explosion tore through the Smith mine near Bear Creek. 77 men were underground that morning, and only 3 came out alive. 74 died, the worst coal mining disaster in Montana's history, and the dead are still memorialized in Red Lodge today. Eric says the people he spoke to all had their own stories, paranormal experiences or family members who'd had them, and the way he heard it, the trouble predated the mines. The land was supposed to have been cursed long before anyone ever dug into it.
So Red Lodge used to have a lot of Native American tribes that were all battling and feuding with each other. And before any Western people even got there, smallpox had traveled ahead and wiped out complete tribes, decimating, cultures. When the miners got there, there was already a bunch of spooky stuff already happening there, and they said the land was cursed.
Which brings us to the clip that made him a believer. It's hard to make out at first, but zoomed in, there's a dark, human-shaped figure standing in the hallway. When Eric goes to investigate, there's nothing there. A coal town built on a disaster, a string of doors that won't stay shut, and a figure in the hallway that vanished the moment he went looking. Eric O'Day came to Red Lodge for a few quiet days away and left, telling anyone who'd listen to look up the history before they ever think about staying.
I'm so glad to be home. I never would have believed any of that stuff had I not seen it with my own eyes. But look up Red Lodge, man. Look up the history there. If you want to go ghost touring, go to Red Lodge, and just keep your eyes open, because I saw weird stuff left and right almost every night that I was there.
They've reconfigured a number of things, I am certain. What do you think the next best move is today?
A retired US Navy Admiral went on Fox News to talk about the war in Iran. Within hours, a large chunk of the internet was convinced the man on screen wasn't actually him.
The president has time on his hands. He controls the narrative, he controls the strike capabilities.
The guest was Vice Admiral Robert Harwood, a retired Navy SEAL 3-star admiral and former deputy commander of US Central Command. On the 19th of May, he appeared on the program America's Newsroom over a remote video link to give his analysis of the Iran conflict.
And that's what the president controls most. So he can take his time, let the blockade and the economic sanctions continue to erode.
In the end, nobody talked about his analysis at all.
The power of the regime enhanced the hatred that all the Iranians in Iran have for the regime. So all those things work in his favor.
Right where his collar met his neck, there was a thin, dark line, a kind of separation between his skin and whatever was below it. To a lot of viewers, it looked exactly like the bottom edge of a rubber mask, lifting slightly away from the real face underneath.
And as well stop their ballistic missile programs. So at the end of the
Once it was seen, it couldn't be unseen.
gravity is the IRGC, the entity, the part of the U.S., the government in Iran that controls everything.
The scary video tore across X, Reddit, TikTok, and YouTube. People zoomed in, slowed it down, ran side-by-side comparisons with old photos of Harwood, and started building theories. The first was the obvious one. He was wearing a hyper-realistic silicone mask, the kind you only really see in Mission Impossible films. From there, it escalated. Maybe it wasn't Harwood at all. Maybe he'd been replaced and a body double was sitting in for him. Maybe it was one of the hyper-realistic masks that intelligence agencies are rumored to use. The phrase deep state started getting thrown around, and so did the word reptilian. And then the internet did the most internet thing possible. Polymarket opened a real betting market on a single question: was the Fox News guest wearing a mask? Eventually, Fox News addressed it. According to the network, Harwood had been filmed from a remote camera van operated by an outside vendor, and the lighting inside the van clashed with his jacket, throwing a shadow across his neck. As far as Fox was concerned, that was the end of it, a trick of the light and nothing more. The betting market eventually resolved on no, and 3 days later, Harwood was back on Fox News, this time in a shirt with a much higher collar.
Continue to talk but not deliver.
But plenty of people watched that explanation, went back to the footage, and still couldn't make it line up with a simple shadow. The Admiral himself has never said a single word about any of it. So take one more look at that line on his collar.
And as well stop their ballistic missile programs. So at the end of the day, the real center of
A shadow thrown by the lighting in a camera van, or the edge of something that shouldn't be there at all. That one we'll leave entirely up to you.
But you wonder if we can bomb our way to peace in Iran today. That's a question mark. Sir, thanks for coming on today. We'll see what happens later today. Thank you.
The man filming is an Instagram creator who goes by Cook Sucks, a travel and food vlogger who's built a following documenting trips through dozens of countries. He was filming the shrine when it happened. What the heck was that? He says on the clip, and he can't let it go. He's certain he saw a hand reach down from above the shrine and drop a small object, maybe a coin, maybe a token, onto the ground.
Guys, I swear to God, I saw a hand come down from here and it dropped that. See this? The hand dropped it from up here.
He checks for a hole, a ledge, a trapdoor, any way an object could have fallen from up there, and finds nothing.
It's freaking creepy. Bro, there's no hole up there. I thought there was like a trap door for...
He shows a local tour guide what happened, explaining that he's sure he saw a hand. They replay it together, and even then, the two of them can't agree on what the camera caught.
Oh. See?
No, I didn't see.
You didn't see?
Ah,
One more time, one more time, one more time, one more time. See?
no.
The theories since have split the same way. Some say it's a bird knocking a coin or an offering off the top of the shrine. Some say it's CGI dropped into the footage for clicks. And some think the hand is exactly what it looks like. A small object falling from nowhere in a place built for the sacred. Two men replayed it side by side, frame by frame, and still walked away with completely different ideas of what they'd just seen.
Oh. What the heck was that?
In 2020, a woman took a photo of her bathroom to show a friend some bad tiling work. Her friend wrote back asking about something else entirely. Who was the other person in the picture? This one was sent in to us directly by a viewer named Steph. She'd just had a new bathroom suite fitted, wasn't happy with how the tiling had been done, and snapped a quick photo to send across. Her own arm is just visible at the edge of the frame. But reflected back into the room, there's what looks like a figure, pale, dressed in white, standing where no one should have been. Steph says she hadn't seen it at all until her friend pointed it out, and the longer she looked, the less sense it made. She was alone in the house, and she'd been wearing black, not white, and the bathroom had just been refurbished, stripped back and empty, with no towels or fabric hanging anywhere that could fold itself into the shape of a person. Steph still has no idea who or what was in the room with her. A man sits filming on the floor of his new apartment when he catches this. The scary video was posted to TikTok by Alicia World 101, whose brother had recently moved into a new place in Texas. Almost as soon as he had, things started moving on their own. The caption doesn't hedge. Alicia World 101 is convinced it's a poltergeist. The drawers are just the start. He pans the camera across the room to a mattress lying on the floor. And if you watch the corner closely, the surface presses down and compresses, as though an invisible hand has grabbed hold and is pulling it along. Now, furniture sliding across a floor is one of the easier things to fake. A bit of fishing line, a tilted floor, a careful edit. But what people in the comments kept catching on wasn't whether it moved, it was how. A mattress is heavy and awkward, and it doesn't slide across a bare floor on its own. The Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California is one of the most famously haunted buildings in America. Julia didn't go for the ghosts, she went for the architecture. She came home with something in an upstairs window she still can't explain. She sent the photos in to us directly. Back in November 2023, she and her fiancé arrived early for a tour before the crowds, and she stopped to take a picture of him standing in the courtyard. It's a nice ordinary photo, her fiancé, the strange sloping mansion, a quiet morning with hardly anyone around. She didn't notice anything until she got home and started showing the photos to family. Up on the second floor in one of the windows, there's a figure, faint, washed out, almost transparent, looking down into the courtyard. Julia says that floor was empty. They were early, the tour groups hadn't started moving through yet, and there shouldn't have been anyone up there at all. She took a second photo seconds later, and the figure was gone. To understand why a faint figure in a Winchester window makes people's skin crawl, you have to know the story of the house. It was built by Sarah Winchester, widow of the heir to the Winchester rifle fortune, the rifle sometimes called the gun that won the West. After her husband and infant daughter died, the legend goes that a medium told Sarah she was cursed by the spirits of everyone the family's rifles had ever killed. To keep them at bay, she was to build a house for them and never stop building. So she didn't. From the 1880s until her death in 1922, construction ran almost without pause, day and night, for close to 4 decades. The result is a sprawling maze of around 160 rooms with staircases that climb straight into ceilings and doors that open onto nothing but a drop, including the one labelled right there in Julia's photo, the door to nowhere. The house was supposedly designed to confuse the dead. And ever since it opened to the public, visitors and staff have reported the dead anyway. Footsteps in empty halls, shadowy figures, and a grey-haired woman some believe is Sarah herself still walking the rooms she built. All of which brings us back to Julia's photo, a faint figure standing at an upstairs window of the house Sarah Winchester built to hide from the spirits, captured by a visitor who didn't even know it was there until she got home. There are easy answers: a reflection, a trick of the light in an old dark window, maybe a visitor who'd slipped upstairs early. But the floor was empty, and seconds later the figure was gone. What Julia's left with is a faint grey-haired shape looking down from a window of the one house built to keep the dead lost inside it.
This is the creepiest video I've ever made.
At 12:43 in the morning, something woke her, a sound in her bedroom she couldn't place. She reached for her phone and started filming towards the doorway. But the room was pitch black, and the footage showed almost nothing. The scary video was posted to TikTok by K3NZI3K3NZ. She says she could still hear the noise as she filmed, but in the dark, she couldn't tell where to point the camera, and the next day, the video was as black as the room had been. So she brightened it, and her own caption says she regrets doing it. In the doorway, pulled out of the darkness, there's the silhouette of a tall, dark figure. In the comments, people kept landing on the same name, the Hatman. If you've never heard of him, the Hatman is one of the most widely reported figures in modern paranormal lore. The descriptions are almost always the same: a tall, dark, featureless silhouette, often in a wide-brimmed hat, sometimes a long coat. He doesn't speak and he doesn't attack. He stands in a doorway or a corner and watches, and the people who see him describe an overwhelming sense of dread. What's genuinely strange is how consistent the sightings are. People who've never met, in different countries with no shared culture, independently describe the same hatted shape standing at the foot of the bed or in the bedroom door. The leading explanation is sleep paralysis, that state where the mind wakes before the body can move, and the brain, stuck between dreaming and waking, fills the room with a threatening presence. It's ancient. The word nightmare comes from the nightmare, a spirit once believed to sit on the chest of a sleeping person, and nearly every culture has its own version. This is where the clip gets complicated, because sleep paralysis would explain a figure seen while half asleep. But she wasn't asleep. She was awake, sitting up, holding a phone, which leaves the simpler answer: when you brighten near black footage, you're not uncovering detail, you're amplifying noise. And the brain is wired to find a face or a figure in random grain. So maybe that's all this is static and shadow pulled into the shape of a man by a tired brain in the dead of night. But it doesn't explain the sound that woke her. And it doesn't explain why so many people who've never met keep pointing their cameras into the dark and finding the same tall figure in the same hat, standing exactly where this one is, in the doorway, watching. time for the Weird News Roundup, a run through the strangest stories making the rounds this week before we get back to the countdown. We start in the Congo Basin, where sightings of Mokele Mbembe, the so-called African dinosaur, are spiking. Scientists are calling it the deforestation cryptid. The legend goes back over a century. Locals describe an elephant-sized reptile with a long, snaking neck said to capsize any boat that drifts too close. That image, a living sauropod in the swamps, drew more than 50 expeditions, most famously biologist Roy Mackles in 1980. None ever found a thing. So why the spike now? The Congo Basin has lost 23 million hectares of forest this century, an area the size of the UK. As the trees fall and settlements push in, people are meeting elephants, hippos and rhinos for the first time. And the theory is that those half-glimpsed encounters wrapped in a very old story are driving the new wave. Then again, the locals will tell you they know exactly what they saw. Staying with monster hunts in Scotland, this is shaping up to be the biggest search for the Loch Ness Monster in years. The Loch Ness Centre's Quest Festival runs the 28th to the 30th of May, and they've brought in serious kit. Craig Wallace's team at Deep Sea Vision, the same crew that went hunting for Amelia Earhart's lost plane, are dropping an autonomous drone called Micro Millie into Urquhart Bay, the deep basin below the castle that's logged more sightings than anywhere else on the loch. Its job is to map the bottom down to the centimetre. And here's the kicker. Barely 2 to 3% of Loch Ness has ever been surveyed in that kind of detail. It's the most serious hunt for Nessie since Operation Deep Scan swept the water with sonar in 1987. So if something's been hiding down there, this could be the week it finally turns up on a screen. And speaking of things that aren't supposed to exist, if you've made it this far, odds are you've got a soft spot for them. That's what our cryptid collection is for. A whole line of creatures from every corner of the map, on teas and more. Head to slaptham.com, links in the description, and every order keeps the lights on and the videos coming. Right into space, and this one's big. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb has published a new essay with a genuinely wild claim that an interstellar gardener may have used the comet 3I Atlas to seed life on Earth. 3I Atlas, spotted in 2025, is only the third object we've ever caught crossing our solar system from interstellar space, after Oumuamua and Borisov. What's grabbed Loeb is its path. It lined up within about 5 degrees of the plane where the habitable planets sit, with organic molecules, methanol, formaldehyde, methane, turning up in the jet trailing off it. His theory, directed panspermia, is that an advanced civilization could deliberately load a comet with the seeds of life and aim it at promising worlds, like a dandelion scattering seeds on the wind. Most astronomers say it's just a comet, and Loeb has plenty of critics. But his question is hard to shake. What if Earth wasn't a stop along the way, but the destination? Still in space, but lighter, NASA's Perseverance rover sent back a photo on the 21st of May of a strangely tidy stack of rocks on the surface of Mars, flat slabs piled up like someone set them there on purpose. Geologists shrugged. A natural formation, the kind wind and erosion carve out all the time. The internet naturally decided someone built it. It's the latest in a long Martian tradition, the face on Mars, the pyramids of Cydonia where our brains go hunting for design in the dust. Almost certainly pareidolia, or is it? And to finish, one of the oldest mysteries at sea may finally have an answer. In December 1872, the Mary Celeste was found drifting off the Azores, completely abandoned. The eerie part wasn't the empty deck, it was how normal everything else looked. Seaworthy ship, cargo intact, half-eaten meals still out. The captain, his wife, their baby daughter, and the whole crew were gone, along with one lifeboat. None were ever seen again. For 150 years, the theories ran wild. Pirates, mutiny, the supernatural. But this month, chemists at University College London and Manchester ran a scale model experiment pointing to something far more ordinary. The ship carried 1,700 barrels of alcohol and 9 turned up empty. Leaking vapor, they showed, could set off a pressure wave blast, a burst of blue flame that blows the hatches open but burns too fast and too cool to leave a single scorch mark, which is exactly what investigators found at the time. The crew likely felt the ship erupt, panicked into the lifeboat, and the empty Mary Celeste sailed on without them. That's your Weird News Roundup. Now back to the countdown. A viewer named Megan was up late one night in Steinbach, Manitoba, filming her dog howling along with the coyotes outside, and sent us what her camera caught. She was lying in bed, facing away from the wall, with the camera pointed past her towards the closet. She never looked at the screen and had no idea anything was wrong until she played the video back the next morning. This is what the camera had caught behind her. You can see a shadowy hand rise up, then dissipate. Megan tried to debunk it the next night. The only way to throw a shadow like that was for something solid pressed right up against the wall. But there was nothing in the room that could have done it. Nothing except her. So what rose up that closet wall while her back was turned and slipped away before she ever knew it was there? This one is a before and after, 2 photographs taken just seconds apart. The first was posted to TikTok by Thuggishmas. It shows their mum kneeling in the living room, posing while her son takes her picture. He isn't in the frame himself, but watch the reflection in the television behind her. Then he took a second shot barely a moment later. Same room, but now there are 2 figures in the reflection. According to the uploader, no one else was in the house. Only the mum and the son were in that living room, yet the second photo shows another figure in the reflection right beside him. The family has been turning these 2 photos over for years, and they're no closer to an answer. 2 people stood in that living room that afternoon, and somehow the camera found 3.
Pero desde hace rato se están escuchando vainas.
For a while now, a mother had been hearing strange noises from her young daughter's playroom, so she started filming.
Dejó de jugar hace rato. Y no es nada más eso, que la hueputica esta... ¿Cómo la verga?
This scary video was posted to TikTok by EROSB1TCJ, and it's racked up over 12 million views.
Ok, está bien pues.
She walks the room, narrating in Spanish, the camera sweeping past the toys. A little pink squid sits on the table, right where it belongs. Then she steps back into the hallway.
Dejó de jugar hace rato. Y no es nada más eso, que la hueputica esta...
When she comes back, the squid is on the floor.
¿Cómo la verga? ¿Por no estabas ahí?
She brushes it off and keeps going, but the noises don't stop. And when she turns back, watch the doll against the far wall.
Y no nada más eso. Sí. Maricón. Otra vez vos. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa más o menos? Ajá. Se supone que esto estaba en la mesa. Y de igual manera, o sea...
She isn't performing for the camera. Her voice drops and she mutters that the thing just won't leave the baby alone. So she set up a second camera, pointed it straight at the doll and left it running. So what's loose in that little playroom, knocking toys to the floor, creeping across the walls, and circling back again and again to the one room that belongs to her little girl? Back in 2015, a woman named Annette took a couple of quick photos at her son's birthday party at a bowling alley in Trussville, Alabama, and she sent them in to us herself. The family crowded in behind the cake, smiling for the camera. But look over the shoulder of the man on the right. The faint see-through figure of an old man stands behind the group, caught mid-step. Annette swears no one walked past while the photos were taken. And he doesn't look right. The wrong size for the room, out of proportion with the family in front of him. Here's the second shot taken seconds later. The old man is gone, but look just left of the young woman in the middle, where a strange, shapeless smear now hangs in the air over a spot that was empty a heartbeat before. Annette took both of these photos herself, seconds apart. And all these years later, she still can't explain the old man no one saw walk in, or the strange smudge he seems to have left behind. Before we get to that number one spot, remember to hit that subscribe button, then tickle that little bell icon there and turn on all channel notifications. That way you'll be in the loop every time we drop our scary and mysterious videos. There's a photograph taken in London in 1874 of one of the most respected scientists of the Victorian age arm in arm with a dead woman. He believed every bit of it, and he spent the rest of his life refusing to take it back. This is the story of a ghost named Katie King. In the 1870s, Britain was gripped by spiritualism. Seances filled drawing rooms across the country, and mediums claimed they could reach the dead. Most offered rapping sounds or floating tables or voices in the dark. But a teenage girl from Hackney in East London promised something far bolder. Her name was Florence Cook, and she said she could bring the dead all the way back into the room. Cook would sit inside a curtained-off space she called the cabinet, fall into a trance, and wait. And then, from behind the curtain, a young woman would step out into the candlelight. She walked, she spoke, she let people touch her, weigh her, even take her by the hand. She called herself Katie King. Katie had a history, or said she did. She claimed to be the daughter of another spirit, John King, who in life had supposedly been the pirate Henry Morgan, the buccaneer who plundered the Caribbean and ended his days as governor of Jamaica. Katie said her own name had once been Annie Owen Morgan, that she had died young, and that she had done terrible things in her short life. Now she was back, she said, to atone for them. There was just one problem. Katie King looked an awful lot like Florence Cook. Critics said the answer was obvious. The medium was simply slipping out from behind the curtain in costume. Believers had a reply ready. A spirit borrows flesh from the living, so of course Katie resembled the woman who summoned her. To settle it, Katie would sometimes show a darkened face or appear taller with a fuller face and different hair. Then, in December of 1873, one sitter decided to test her the hard way. As Katie stood among the guests, a man named Volkman lunged forward, seized her around the waist, and refused to let go. A struggle broke out. Katie twisted free, the curtain was thrown back, and the room fell into chaos. To Cook's defenders, it proved nothing. The man had broken every rule of the seance, and he happened to work alongside a rival medium. But the newspapers had a different word for it: exposure. Her reputation was bleeding, so Florence Cook turned to the one person who might save it: a scientist. William Crookes was no crank. He had discovered the element thallium. He would later be knighted and go on to serve as president of the Royal Society, one of the most decorated scientists in all of Britain. In 1874, he agreed to investigate Florence Cook on his own terms, in his own home and his own laboratory. And what he came back and reported astonished everyone who heard it. Crookes said he had seen Katie King and Florence Cook in the same room, at the same moment. He said he had walked arm in arm with Katie, felt her pulse, listened to the beat of her heart. He photographed her again and again. by some accounts more than 40 times. He wired Florence to his instruments to prove she stayed put while Katie moved freely about the room. And at the end of it all, he declared, in print, that Katie King was exactly what she claimed to be, a genuine spirit of the dead. The scientific world was horrified. His colleagues mocked him openly. Whispers spread that Crooks had fallen for his teenage subject, that the great man had been seduced or simply fooled. Through all of it, he never once wavered. Then, in May of 1874, Katie King said goodbye. At her final seance, she woke Florence from her trance and the two of them stood together one last time. Witnesses called it almost unbearably tender. Katie handed out keepsakes, locks of her hair, scraps of her robe, embraced the weeping medium, stepped back behind the curtain, and she was gone. Except she wasn't quite. Word of Katie King had already crossed the Atlantic, and within months she was reportedly appearing in Philadelphia through 2 American mediums. A celebrated believer vouched for her in a national magazine, right up until a local woman stepped forward and admitted she had been playing Katie all along, her face matching the photographs exactly. The American chapter collapsed in scandal. And the original, Florence Cook, held on for 6 more years. Then, in 1880, she came back with a new spirit, one who liked to sing and dance. During a seance, a young man named George Sitwell noticed something stiff beneath the spirit's flowing white robes. Corset stays. He grabbed hold and shouted for the lights. It was Florence. In her underwear, the chair behind the curtain empty, the ropes slipped loose. That should have been the end of it. Florence Cook, caught in the act under the cold light of a lamp. And yet it doesn't quite close the case, because it doesn't explain the photographs. It doesn't explain a serious, brilliant scientist who staked his entire reputation on what he saw, and who went to his grave decades later still swearing it was real. His own heirs were so unsettled that after his death, they destroyed the original negatives. Only copies survive. So who or what walked out of that cabinet in a quiet London house, solid enough to take a scientist by the arm and fool one of the finest minds of the age? A teenage girl in costume running the boldest con of the Victorian era? Or something science still has no name for and never quite managed to explain away? If you can't get enough of the scary videos, then click these links on the screen right now, and I'll see you in the next one.